Hello adventurers, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're in Leadville, Colorado for a very interesting, different kind of brain wrinkle. Today we're going to be going to a very special place that I've tried to come to once before, but they were actually still working on it. But now it is fully available for us. So just beyond my van, we're going to go and see something absolutely spectacular. Come along with me and let's go. This adventure starts out with a series of signs to tell us a little bit of the context, but long story short, this is an Irish memorial for all of those who were immigrants to this area who largely worked in the railroad and mining industry. They were many times thought to be less than. They were pushed down, but here in Leadville they thrived and came together and had a community. But along the way, we're going to learn a lot about these people, and there's a very impressive statue that we're about to find. But along the way, we have to go around a spiral. So let's go. Now, history is told through these signs as you walk up, and I'm going to leave some of that for you all as you visit. But this one kind of caught my eye. It shows the Leadville's Irish District, and you can see right here is the Evergreen Cemetery, but then you can also see the Irish area of town marked by the green. But it spans from basically 9th all the way down to 4th and over toward the Little Stray Horse and the Stray Horse Gulch at the Fairview Hill. And so I thought that this was pretty interesting because it was an isolated area of the town that was actually marked for the Irish settlers. There were a lot of Irish settlers in this area, known as the 6th Street Irish. And that was the little cluster that they lived in. Now, another interesting fact is the male to female population was basically one female for every 4 males here. And life was really hard at that time, super, super hard. So living in existence here now, the way that we do whenever we get to come and visit, where there's all these nice amenities and shops and things like that, it wasn't always the case. It wasn't a tourist area at that time. At that time, it was a hard work labor area. And so everyone who was here had to work very diligently just to make ends meet and to survive. Not to mention, as you can imagine, we are at 10,100 and some feet. And in that, you're going to have some real harsh times during the winter. So you have to not only survive those harsh times, but also thrive by doing the work. And so this was a task that was very daunting to a lot of people. Women specifically, they did not fare well. Despite being outnumbered, they also had really hard lives. Infant mortality was very high. Suicide and domestic violence were terrible amongst women, and the men didn't have it much easier. However, the women felt the brunt of the force the most when the frustrations kicked in and the whiskey started flowing. And so here we learn a lot about the struggles in Leadville of just living, and to be a woman, to be a man, to be Irish. We then get to this area which talks about the strike. Labor struggles in Leadville persisted, and they actually had 2 major strikes that were led by the Irish. Happened May of 1880, and they were going up against the union, and they wanted to have their salaries raised by $1, from $3 to $4, and that was per day. So can you imagine making $3 or $4 per day? Today we would not be surviving at all, but at that time it was also kind of a struggle with $3 or $4 with all of the additional factors going on. In fact, the leader of this particular strike was Michael Mooney. He was a Dublin, Ireland-born man, and his goal was to keep everyone safe, which meant no violence. So he tried to lead a peaceful strike in this particular encounter. Despite his efforts, it didn't work out that way. The governor of Colorado, he wasn't happy, so he decided to declare martial law on Leadville, and the National Guard came in and basically was ruling by force. Lasted about 3 weeks under this pressure before finally they gave up. They just couldn't do it. They were threatened daily. Many of them were given very violent outcomes. And so they gave up and they walked away without a conclusion and just still making $3 a day. The second one happened in 1896 when they shut down the silver mines as they kind of walked out in protest. And instead of fixing the issue by giving them more wages, they brought in people all the way from Joplin, Missouri, and again quashed their goal of being paid a fair wage. Now, unfortunately, in this particular instance, some of them got a little rough and rowdy because they were angry and they started to turn to violence. And in doing so, they turned to violence to the point that not only was martial law declared again, but several passed away and perished in their efforts. And needless to say, many of them just gave up. They didn't know what else to do and relocated out of this area. But that's only part of the legacy of the Irish miners. So we're going to walk around the spiral and find out more. Along these walls, you will find every Irish person here. Some of them very young, some of them much older. But this is a memorial to all of those that made Leadville possible for a very long time. There are a lot of kids on here, a lot of kids. It just goes to show how bad the conditions were at that time. And the walls just keep going and going. Wow, there are so many kids. If you look around the base, you'll find all sorts of little pieces from the mines, from old metal to pieces that might have been pulled out with ore. As you can see, this has been a labor of love for so many. All of the people who donated to make this possible have been recognized here, and this is an official monument now as a result of their hard work and dedication to honoring those people who made Leadville what it is today. I think one of the things that we often forget whenever we come to places and we recreate in them is that there's a past long before we got there. Sometimes that past is not as pretty as the views we see now. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes people struggled and suffered. And at the same time, it's been something that has brought us a place that we can now come to respect. And I appreciate memorials like this because it draws us back to the history so that we can pay tribute to those who were in this area, in that section that was the Irish section. Our country has been built on the backs of immigrants. And so often, those are the working class that still in our world today are still the working class. So respecting them, honoring them, uplifting them, it's something that we can do no matter where we go, but especially when we find a place like this. I appreciate you guys for coming along with me for this shorter video, learning a few things about the Leadville area, a place that I personally love, and also about these incredible people and their service to us all. Sure, they're in the past, but we wouldn't be able to come to places like this if it weren't for their hard work and dedication in some of the most grueling, harsh, nasty conditions. Till next time, guys. Bye.